She stood there in handcuffs, her wrists burned. Her heart pounded so loud she could barely hear the officer yelling at her. "I said, put your hands behind your back." She already had, but he wasn't listening. He never planned to listen. The metal clicked tighter, too tight. She winced but didn't cry out. She wouldn't give him that. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly. The officer laughed. "That's what they all say." Behind him, his partner shifted uncomfortably. Something felt wrong, but he didn't speak up. He never did. What this officer didn't know, what he couldn't have imagined, was that the woman he just threw against the hood of his patrol car wasn't just anyone. She was District Attorney Monica Williams, the woman who had prosecuted over 200 cases in that very county. The woman whose face was on billboards across the city. The woman who had dedicated her entire life to justice. And now? She was being arrested for looking suspicious in her own neighborhood. The body cam was rolling. Every word, every breath, every moment of humiliation. And when that footage finally went public, it didn't just go viral, it shook an entire city to its core. This isn't just a story about one bad cop. It's about what happens when power meets prejudice, when a badge becomes a weapon, and when one woman's dignity becomes a mirror that forces an entire system to look at itself. What happened next changed laws, ended careers, and started a movement. Let me show you exactly how this happened. Monica Williams grew up in South Memphis. 3-bedroom house, 5 kids, 1 bathroom. Her mama worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night, serving breakfast at a diner in the morning. Monica was the middle child, the quiet one, the one who noticed everything. She saw how people looked at her family when they walked into stores. She heard the way teachers spoke to her differently than the white kids. She felt the weight of being watched, suspected, doubted, before she even opened her mouth. But she also saw something else. She saw her mother stand tall even when the world tried to make her feel small. She saw her father shake hands with the same police officers who had pulled him over 3 times in 1 month. She saw resilience that didn't need to announce itself, and she decided if the system was broken, she'd learn it from the inside. Then she'd fix it. Law school wasn't easy. She worked full-time, studied at night, slept 4 hours if she was lucky, but she graduated top of her class, passed the bar on her first try, started as a public defender, then moved to prosecution. 15 years later, she became district attorney, first black woman to hold that position in her county. The newspapers ran stories. Community leaders celebrated. Children saw her face and believed they could do it too. But some people? They never saw the achievement. They only saw her skin. And on the morning of June 14, 2023, one of those people was wearing a badge. Monica had just moved into a new neighborhood, a quiet street with big trees and nice lawns. She'd worked her whole life to afford that house, to give her daughter the kind of childhood she never had. It was 7:30 in the morning. She was checking her mailbox, still in her workout clothes, leggings, a hoodie, sneakers, hair tied back, no makeup, just a woman getting her mail before heading to the office. That's when Officer Derek Jennings pulled up. He'd been a cop for 6 years, 28 years old, clean record technically, but his colleagues knew. They'd heard the comments, seen the way he treated certain people differently than others. Nobody said anything. Nobody ever did. Derek saw a black woman in workout clothes standing by a mailbox. And in his mind, that looked suspicious. He didn't see a homeowner. He didn't see a lawyer. He definitely didn't see the district attorney. He saw a threat that needed to be controlled. And that's when everything went wrong. But if you think that was heartbreaking, wait until you see what came next. "Excuse me, ma'am. Can I see some ID?" Monica turned around. She saw the patrol car, saw the officer walking toward her with that particular look, the one she'd seen 1,000 times. Suspicion disguised as procedure. She took a breath, stayed calm. "Good morning, officer. Is there a problem? I need to see your identification." "May I ask why?" That's all it took. That one question. Derek's jaw tightened. I don't have to explain myself to you. ID, now. Monica's heart started racing, but her voice stayed steady. I live here. I'm just checking my mail. Sure you do. He didn't believe her, didn't even try to hide it. We've had reports of suspicious activity in this neighborhood. You fit the description. She wanted to laugh, wanted to scream. She did neither. What description would that be, officer? His hand moved to his belt. Not his gun. Not yet. But close enough to send a message. Are you refusing to cooperate? I'm asking a question. That's my right. Your right? He stepped closer. Your right is to do what I say when I say it. Now show me your ID or you're getting detained. Monica reached slowly into her hoodie pocket. Her wallet was there, her driver's license, her badge. But Derek didn't wait. Hands where I can see them! I'm getting my hands up, now! She pulled her hands out. Empty. Raised them slowly. Her wallet fell to the ground. Officer, please, I was reaching for my identification like you asked. But he wasn't listening anymore. His partner, Officer Mills, had gotten out of the car now. Younger guy, new to the force. He looked nervous. Derek, maybe we should just... Stay back, Mills. I got this. Derek grabbed Monica's arm, spun her around, slammed her against the hood of his car. The metal was hot from the morning sun. It burned through her thin hoodie. She gasped. You're hurting me. Should have thought about that before you resisted. I didn't resist. The handcuffs snapped on. Too tight. The metal cut into her wrists. A neighbor came outside. Mrs. Patterson, an elderly white woman who lived 2 doors down. She'd met Monica last week, brought over a pie, welcomed her to the street. Officer, that's my neighbor. She lives here. Derek didn't even look at her. Ma'am, get back inside. This is police business. But she's inside now. Mrs. Patterson stood there, frozen. Then she pulled out her phone and started recording. Monica's wallet was still on the ground. Derek kicked it open with his boot. Her license fell out. Her badge fell out. He picked up the badge. For 3 seconds, the world went silent. Officer Mills saw it first. His face went pale. Derek. Derek read the badge, read it again. His hand started shaking. District Attorney, Monica Williams, County Prosecutor's Office. Oh no. Monica's voice was quiet, steady, controlled. I tried to tell you. Derek's face went through every emotion at once. Shock, fear, anger, denial. He looked at Mills, looked at the badge, looked at Monica still handcuffed against his car. This doesn't change anything. You were acting suspicious. I was checking my mail. You refused to comply. I asked a question. That's not a crime, Officer Jennings. He froze. She knew his name. Of course she knew his name. She was the DA. She probably knew everything about him. Mills stepped forward. Derek, take the cuffs off. No, procedure states, take the cuffs off, now. For the first time, Derek's confidence cracked. His hands fumbled with the key. The cuffs came off. Monica rubbed her wrists. Red marks circled them like bracelets. She picked up her wallet, her badge, her license. She looked Derek straight in the eye. Your body camera is on, correct? He swallowed hard. Yes, ma'am. Good. I'll be requesting that footage. She walked back to her house, closed the door, leaned against it, and finally, let herself shake. But if you think that was the end of it, you have no idea what came next. Monica didn't go to work that day. She sat in her kitchen, staring at her wrists. The marks were already turning into bruises. Her daughter, Jasmine, 13 years old, came downstairs for breakfast, saw her mother, saw the bruises. Mom? What happened? Monica forced a smile. Nothing, baby. Just bumped into something. But Jasmine wasn't a child anymore. She knew. She always knew. Was it a cop? The question hung in the air. Heavy, terrible, true. Monica couldn't lie to her daughter. Wouldn't. Yes. Jasmine sat down next to her, put her small hand over her mother's bruised wrist. Did you tell him who you are? I tried. Did it matter? That's the question, isn't it? Did it matter? Monica had spent her whole life believing that education, achievement, respect, that those things would protect her. That if she worked hard enough, climbed high enough, proved herself enough, she'd finally be safe. But Derek Jennings didn't see her resume. He saw her skin, and that's all he needed to see. Monica made a decision that day. She could stay quiet. File a complaint through internal affairs, handle it privately. That's what her colleagues would expect. That's what would be professional. Or she could do what she'd always done. Stand up, speak truth, demand justice, even when it was uncomfortable, especially when it was uncomfortable. She called a press conference for the next day. Her boss, the county commissioner, called her first. Monica, let's think about this. Going public, it could get messy. It's already messy. You know what I mean. The department, the union, the media. This could turn into a whole thing. It should be a whole thing. Think about your career. Monica almost laughed. I am thinking about my career. I'm the district attorney. My job is to prosecute injustice, even when it's inconvenient. Silence on the other end. Then, you're really doing this? I'm really doing this. The press conference was held at 10 a.m. in front of the courthouse. Every news station showed up. Radio reporters, bloggers, community organizers. The steps were packed. Monica stood at the podium. Professional, composed, strong. But her daughter stood next to her, and that changed everything. My name is Monica Williams. I'm the district attorney for this county, and yesterday morning I was detained, handcuffed, and humiliated by an officer from our own police department. The cameras flashed. Reporters leaned forward. I was checking my mail, in front of my own home, in my own neighborhood, and I was treated like a criminal. Not because I broke any law, but because I am a black woman in a space where someone decided I didn't belong. She paused. Let that sink in. Some of you might think this story has a twist. That when the officer realized who I was, everything changed. That my badge mattered. My position mattered. Her voice got quieter, stronger. It didn't, not in that moment, because prejudice doesn't care about your resume. Jasmine squeezed her mother's hand. Monica looked down at her, looked back at the cameras. I'm standing here today not just as the DA. I'm standing here as a mother, because when my daughter asked me if it mattered that I told the officer who I was, I couldn't give her the answer I wanted to. She held up her wrists. The bruises were visible even on camera. This is what looking suspicious looks like. This is what officer safety looks like. This is what happens when fear matters more than humanity. A reporter shouted a question. Will you be pressing charges? Monica took a breath. I've requested the body camera footage. Once I review it, once the public sees it, we'll determine the appropriate response. But let me be clear. This isn't about revenge. This is about accountability. Another question. Do you think Officer Jennings is racist? I think Officer Jennings did something racist. Whether that defines him as a person, that's for him to figure out. But it doesn't matter what's in his heart if his actions break people's spirits. The press conference lasted 20 minutes. By the time it ended, the footage had already been shared 1,000 times. Hashtags were trending, people were angry, but Monica wasn't done yet. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, something incredible happened. The body camera footage was released 3 days later. The police department didn't want to release it. They tried to claim it was part of an ongoing investigation, tried to say it would compromise officer safety, tried every excuse in the book. But Monica had something they didn't. She had the law on her side, and she knew how to use it. The footage went public on a Tuesday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, it had been viewed over 10 million times. People watched Derek Jennings approach Monica, watched him demand ID without cause, watched him escalate a peaceful interaction into a violent encounter. They heard his tone, saw his aggression, witnessed the exact moment he realized his mistake, and chose to double down anyway. "This doesn't change anything. You were acting suspicious." That line became a rallying cry. Memes, protest signs, spoken word poems, because everyone knew what it meant. It meant, even when you're right, we'll find a way to make you wrong. The police union issued a statement. Officer Jennings followed protocol. He had reasonable suspicion. The use of force was appropriate. The community responded with one voice. No, it wasn't. Protests started that week. Not violent, not destructive, just people standing in front of the police station, holding signs, chanting Monica's name. If they did this to the DA, imagine what they do to us. And that's the truth that couldn't be ignored anymore. Monica had power, status, education, respect, and none of it protected her. So what chance did anyone else have? But here's what nobody expected. On day 5 of the protests, someone else stepped forward. Officer James Mills, Derek's partner, the one who stood there and watched. He held his own press conference. "My name is Officer James Mills. I was there when District Attorney Williams was detained, and I didn't stop it." His voice shook. His hands trembled. "I saw what was happening. I knew it was wrong, and I didn't say anything. I told myself it wasn't my place, that Derek was the senior officer, that I should just stay out of it." He looked directly into the camera. "I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Not just to Ms. Williams, but to everyone who's been hurt by officers like me, officers who see injustice and stay silent because it's easier than speaking up." He took off his badge, set it on the podium. "I'm resigning from the force, not because I'm being punished, but because I can't wear this badge and pretend I lived up to it. Maybe someday I'll earn the right to wear it again, but not today." The room went silent. Then someone started clapping, then another, then the whole room erupted. Mills wasn't a hero. He didn't deserve applause for doing what should have been done in the first place, but his admission mattered, because it broke the wall of silence that protects bad officers. Derek Jennings was suspended, then investigated, then fired. The police union fought it, called it politically motivated, said Monica was using her position to punish someone who made an honest mistake. But the body cam footage didn't show an honest mistake. It showed a pattern, a choice, a man who saw someone he didn't respect and treated them accordingly. Monica could have stopped there, could have declared victory, gone back to work, let the system handle the rest. But she didn't. Because this was never just about Derek Jennings. She drafted new legislation, the Community Accountability Act. It required mandatory bias training every 6 months, independent review of all use of force incidents, public database of officer complaints, community oversight boards with real power. The police union hated it, called it anti-cop, said it would make officers afraid to do their jobs. Monica held a town hall, packed auditorium, standing room only. A white officer stood up, angry, red-faced. "You're painting all of us with the same brush. Most cops are good people trying to do a hard job." Monica nodded. "You're right. Most are. So let me ask you something. If you're a good cop, why would you be afraid of accountability?" Silence. If you're treating people with respect, if you're following the law, if you're doing your job with integrity, then body cameras protect you. Oversight protects you. Transparency protects you. She leaned forward. "The only officers who should be scared of this legislation are the ones who have something to hide. Are you one of them?" The officer sat down. Another hand went up. A young black man, early 20s, nervous. "Ms. Williams, I've been pulled over 7 times in 2 years. Never got a ticket, just questioned, searched, humiliated. Every time they said I fit a description. Every time they let me go. Every time I felt like I did something wrong just by existing." His voice cracked. Will this law actually change that? Or is this just words? Monica walked down from the stage, stood in front of him. I don't know, she said honestly. I can't promise this will fix everything, because laws don't change hearts, but they can change behavior. They can create consequences. They can say, this is not acceptable anymore. She looked around the room. And maybe that's not enough. Maybe we need more than laws. Maybe we need every single person in this room to decide that someone else's dignity matters as much as your own comfort. The room stayed silent. I can write legislation. I can prosecute crimes. I can demand accountability. But I can't make people care. That part? That's on you. The legislation passed 3 months later. Not because it was easy. Not because everyone agreed. But because enough people decided that change was worth the discomfort. Derek Jennings tried to sue. Claimed wrongful termination. The case was dismissed. Officer Mills went back to school. Started studying social work. Last anyone heard, he was working with at-risk youth. And Monica? She kept doing her job, prosecuting cases, fighting for justice, being exactly who she'd always been. But something had changed, not just in the law, in the air, in the way people looked at each other, because when the powerful are held accountable, everyone stands a little taller. So what does all this mean for us today? Let's talk about what this story really means. Because it's easy to watch that body cam footage and think, well, that's just one bad cop, one mistake, one incident. But that's not what this is. This is a mirror. And if you look closely enough, you'll see a reflection of something much bigger. Monica Williams had every advantage: education, position, power, respect. She'd climbed every ladder society told her to climb, done everything right. And still, in that moment, none of it mattered. Because Derek Jennings didn't see the district attorney. He saw a black woman in a hoodie, and in his mind, that was all the evidence he needed. This is what people mean when they talk about systemic racism. It's not just hate. It's not just violence. It's the automatic assumptions we make. The invisible calculations that happen before we even realize we're making them. It's seeing someone and deciding they're suspicious, not because of what they're doing, but because of who they are. And here's the hard truth. It's not just cops. It's teachers who assume black students are more disruptive. It's doctors who undertreat black patients' pain. It's hiring managers who overlook qualified candidates because their names sound ethnic. It's all of us, every day, making tiny choices that add up to massive inequality. Monica's story went viral because it exposed something we'd rather not admit. That success doesn't protect you. That doing everything right still isn't enough. That you can be the most qualified person in the room and still be treated like you don't belong. And if it happened to her, the district attorney, what does that say about everyone else? Think about the teenager who gets stopped on his way to basketball practice. The grandmother who gets followed around a department store. The businessman who can't get a cab. Think about every black parent who has to give their children the talk. Not about where babies come from, but how to survive a police encounter. Hands on the steering wheel. Don't make sudden movements. Yes, sir. No, sir. Stay calm even when your heart is pounding. Even when you're terrified. Even when you know you've done nothing wrong. That's the weight Monica carried that morning. That's the weight every black person carries every single day. But here's what else this story shows us. Courage matters. Monica could have stayed silent. Could have accepted an apology behind closed doors, could have let the system protect itself like it always does. Instead, she stood up. She spoke out. She used her power to demand change, not just for herself, but for everyone who didn't have power. That's what real justice looks like. Not revenge, not bitterness, but transformation. And Officer Mills, he mattered too. Because silence is what allows injustice to continue. Every good cop who looks the other way. Every decent person who sees something wrong and says nothing. Mills didn't stop Derek in that moment, but he stopped himself from continuing the pattern. He broke the code of silence. He admitted fault. That's not heroic. That's basic decency. But in a system that protects its own at all costs, even basic decency becomes revolutionary. So what do we do with this story? First, we stop pretending these are isolated incidents. Every viral video is connected to thousands of stories that never get recorded, never get shared, never get justice. Second, we demand accountability, real accountability, not suspensions with pay, not internal investigations that clear everyone, not more training that changes nothing. We need independent oversight, public transparency, consequences that actually matter. Third, and this is the hardest part, we look at ourselves. We examine our own biases, our own assumptions, the ways we contribute to the problem without even realizing it. Because you don't have to wear a badge to participate in injustice. You just have to stay comfortable while others suffer. Monica's daughter asked a question that haunts me. Did it matter? Did it matter that her mother was the DA? Did her achievement protect her? Did her power make a difference in that moment? No, it didn't. But in the aftermath? Yes, absolutely. Because Monica had the platform to turn her pain into policy. The knowledge to fight the system from inside, the courage to risk everything for change. Most people don't have that. Most people suffer in silence. Their stories die in the dark. That's why this story matters. Not because Monica is special, but because she's not. What happened to her happens every day, to people without cameras, without audiences, without power. The only difference is that she could make people listen. And when people finally listened, they couldn't look away. That's the power of truth. It's uncomfortable. It's inconvenient. It forces us to choose between the world we pretend we live in and the world that actually exists. Monica chose truth. Officer Mills chose truth. The community chose truth. And slowly, painfully, the system started to change. Not because it wanted to, but because it had to. Because when enough people say no more, even the strongest walls start to crack. Before we wrap up, there's one final truth you need to hear. 6 months after the incident, Monica got a letter. No return address. Just her name handwritten on the envelope. She almost threw it away. She'd gotten hate mail before, threats, messages telling her to shut up and go back to where she came from, even though she was born 3 miles from the courthouse. But something made her open it. Inside was a single page, messy handwriting, the words barely legible in some places. It was from Derek Jennings. She almost stopped reading, almost crumpled it up. But something made her continue. Ms. Williams, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect forgiveness. I probably don't deserve either. I've spent 6 months trying to understand how I became the person in that body cam footage, how I turned into someone I don't recognize. My lawyer told me not to write this, said it could be used against me. But I don't care anymore. You deserve to hear the truth. I was taught to be afraid, not by the academy, not officially, but by every cop who came before me. Every story about officers getting hurt, every warning to treat every encounter like a life-or-death situation. They taught me that hesitation gets you killed, that compassion is weakness, that some neighborhoods are war zones and everyone in them is the enemy. I believed them, because believing them was easier than thinking for myself. When I saw you that morning, I didn't see a person. I saw a threat that needed to be neutralized. A problem that needed to be controlled. I saw what I was trained to see, what I wanted to see, what was easier to see than the truth. I'm not writing this for sympathy. I'm writing this because you asked a question at that town hall that I can't stop thinking about. If you're a good cop, why would you be afraid of accountability? I was afraid because I knew, deep down, that I wasn't a good cop. I was just good at hiding behind the badge. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that what happened that day changed me. Not because I got fired, but because you forced me to see myself. And I didn't like what I saw. I hope your daughter never has to experience what you went through. I hope my actions didn't teach her that the system will always fail her. But if they did, I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. I'm trying to be better. I don't know if that matters. I don't know if I can ever undo the harm I caused, but I'm trying. That's all I have. Derek Jennings. Monica read the letter 3 times. She didn't cry, didn't call anyone, just sat there holding a piece of paper that weighed more than it should. Was it enough? No. Words don't undo trauma. Apologies don't erase bruises, but it was something. A crack in the armor. A moment of honesty in a world that runs on denial. She didn't respond. Didn't need to. The letter wasn't asking for anything. It was just truth. Messy, painful, incomplete truth. And maybe that's all any of us can offer. The truth of who we were. The truth of who we hurt. The truth of who we're trying to become. Monica kept the letter. Put it in a folder with the body cam footage, the news articles, the protest photos. Her daughter's essay about that day, the legislation she wrote, the lives she changed. Evidence, not just of what happened, but of what came after. Because that's the part we forget. We love the dramatic moments, the confrontations, the exposures, the falls from grace. But real change, real healing, that happens in the quiet moments after the cameras stop rolling. It happens when a disgraced officer writes a letter he'll never get a response to. When a young cop chooses to speak up instead of staying silent. When a community decides that someone else's pain matters as much as their own comfort. It happens when a mother looks at her daughter and says, "Yes, it hurt. Yes, it was wrong, but we survived, and we made it matter." That's the story nobody tells. The aftermath, the healing, the slow, painful work of turning trauma into transformation. A year after the incident, Monica gave a speech at her old law school. The auditorium was packed. Students who looked like her. Students who needed to hear that survival was possible. "I was asked to talk about my greatest victory," she said. "The case I'm most proud of. The legislation that defined my career." She paused. "But my greatest victory wasn't in a courtroom. It was on my lawn. When I decided that what happened to me wouldn't be the end of my story. It would be the beginning of someone else's hope." She looked out at the audience, saw faces that had been profiled. Questioned, doubted, dismissed. They want you to be silent. They want you to accept injustice as the price of survival. They want you to make yourself smaller so they can stay comfortable. Her voice got stronger. "Don't. Take up space. Use your voice. Demand better. Not just for yourself, but for everyone who comes after you." She held up her wrists. The scars were fading now, barely visible. "These marks remind me that pain isn't the end. It's just the price of admission, the cost of standing up when sitting down would be easier." A student raised her hand. Young black woman, nervous but determined. "Ms. Williams, do you ever regret going public, making it a big thing? Sometimes I wonder if it's worth it, if fighting back just makes everything harder." Monica smiled, sad but real. "Every single day. Fighting is exhausting. Vulnerability is terrifying. There are moments I wish I'd stayed quiet. Handled it privately. Gone back to normal." She leaned forward. "But then I remember, there is no normal, not for us. We've been fighting just to exist since the day we were born. The only question is whether our fight will change anything." Silence. "So yes, it's hard. Yes, it costs something. But silence costs more. It costs your spirit, your dignity, your belief that the world can be better." She looked at the student. "You get to choose what price you're willing to pay. Just make sure you're paying for something worth having." The speech ended. Students lined up to meet her, share their stories, ask for advice. One young man waited until the end, until everyone else had gone. "Ms. Williams? I'm Officer Mills's nephew. He wanted me to tell you something." Monica's expression didn't change. "What's that?" He said to say thank you for not giving up on the possibility that people can change. Monica nodded slowly. Is he? Changing? I think so. He talks differently now, listens more. He's not perfect, but he's trying. That's all any of us can do. The young man hesitated. Can I ask you something? Do you forgive him? And Officer Jennings? Monica thought about that letter, about Derek's words, about Mill's resignation. Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's a process. Some days I'm angrier than others. Some days I'm just tired. She looked at the young man. But I refuse to let what they did make me bitter. That's not forgiveness. That's survival. I'm choosing to believe that people can grow, that mistakes don't have to be forever, that even broken systems can be fixed if enough people care. So, yes? So, maybe. Eventually. Ask me again in 5 years. The young man smiled. He said you'd say something like that. Smart kid. He left. Monica gathered her things, walked to her car, the same car she was standing next to when Derek Jennings changed her life. She sat in the driver's seat, looked at the rearview mirror, saw herself. Still here, still standing, still fighting. The bruises were gone. The trauma wasn't. But she'd learned to carry it differently, not as a weight that crushed her, but as proof that she survived. And survival? That's a superpower all its own. She started the car, drove home, hugged her daughter, made dinner, did homework, watched TV. Normal things, beautiful things, things she'd earned the right to do in peace. Because sometimes the hardest stories are the ones that heal us all. Not by erasing the pain, but by showing us that pain doesn't get the final word. We do. And we choose hope. We choose dignity. We choose to believe that tomorrow can be better than yesterday. Not because it's easy, but because it's the only way forward. That's Monica's story. That's all our stories. The fight isn't over. It never really is. But every battle won makes the next one a little easier. Every voice raised makes the next one a little stronger. So use your voice. Tell your truth. Stand your ground. And when the world tries to make you feel small, remember, you are the district attorney. You are the protester. You are the officer who chose courage. You are the student who asked the hard question. You are every person who ever looked injustice in the eye and said, "Not today." That's power, real power. And nobody, no badge, no system, no fear can ever take that away.